नमस्ते। मैं हूं गौरव त्रिपाठी। मैं और मेरी टीम लेकर आए हैं एक नई पॉडकास्ट सीरीज़ कोड केओस क्लैरिटी। ये सीरीज़ है जीपीयूज़, एआई और रिलेटेड टेक्नोलॉजीज़ के बारे में, उनके इम्पैक्ट, अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ और चैलेंजेस के बारे में। तो यदि आपका इंटरेस्ट है लेटेस्ट टेक, इनोवेशन, प्रोडक्ट्स और चैलेंजेस के अराउंड, तो प्लीज़ सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें हमारे चैनल को। ये सीरीज़ हम स्पॉटिफाई पर भी लेके आ रहे हैं, तो प्लीज़ वहाँ भी हमें फॉलो करें। योर सपोर्ट मीन्स द वर्ल्ड फॉर अस, so please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Gaurav Tripathi. Welcome to another edition of Code Chaos Clarity. Becomes very important now, given we have been seeing code creating a lot of chaos in last few months, and hence we think we can bring some clarity to what's happening in the world. I'm honored to have with us today Mr. Ram Parhi, a technology leader whose journey spans software engineering, consulting, business services, leadership in high growth environment. Hello, Ram. Welcome to Code Chaos Clarity.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thanks for having me.
So we'll start with the very beginning. Where are you from originally, and how was, if you can tell us about a bit about your childhood, your early days, schooling, and more important, your early exposure to technology or computers?
Thank you. Early days, I basically belong to Odisha, and I grew up in a small village which is about 100 kilometers from Bhubaneswar, which is the capital city. And I actually studied up to my class 7 in the village school.
Wow.
And so no exposure to any technology early days. I think the most technology I saw that time was a old Philips radio, which probably did not work well, and we used to tinker around with that. But after my class 7, when I finished that, and my elder sister that time was finishing class 10, my father decided to relocate to Bhubaneswar for better schooling and opportunities. And that's where we moved with family. And then I did my high school and my secondary education, which is 10+2, that we used to call, from there. And then, of course, post that, I had moved around quite a bit for education and then later for work.
Yeah. So, a child from a village in Orissa to here, really inspirational journey that way. And Philips radio is very interesting. Now that I recall, yes, probably for me as well, that was one piece of technology. I always, whenever my father not used to be around at home, then I used to always open up and then have a look at it. How does it work? Very interesting.
And you would be surprised to know that I physically did not touch a computer till my master's in technology from IIT Kharagpur.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, at that time probably if you needed to see a computer, even that were only in these premier institutes or very at large corporates. So when did you first realize you wanted to build things at scale, or that software or tech would be the path that you will take?
I don't think I really planned to be in IT when I was starting off in my education and my early days. In fact, in my high school, when I just finished my class 10 and I had an operation and I was in the hospital, I was very impressed with the doctors. I thought maybe I'll become a doctor. And then I ended up not taking biology as my fourth optional in +2 because, I in my class 10 in Odisha, right, to be in the top 10 and 15 was very prestigious. I was in the top 15, and my relatives advised me that if you take a high scoring subject like statistics or electronics, you may be in top 10 in +2. So why not take that, and why take biology? I ended up skipping biology, and that ended my career for medical. Right. And then I thought of becoming an electronics engineer. I was fascinated a little bit with that and thought of clearing IIT and all that. I did clear some of the regional entrances, but not the IIT. I thought I will take a 1-year break and I will study for that. And, somebody was close to a family, very known person, senior guy. He came and he advised us that, what is there in engineering? You must try for civil services, because that time UPSC and civil services was like, the thing to aim for. And he said, study geology, and I had never heard of geology. He said, no, geology and geography combination is fantastic for civils. And there are a lot of people I know who did that. And I ended up taking up geology and going to Ravenshaw College for my graduation, thinking that I'm clear civils, right? And so one thing led to another. So with that graduation, then I had to do a post-graduation, which I did from University of Roorkee, which is IIT Roorkee. And post that, I really thought of going to Delhi and preparing for civils for a couple of years, because anyway, we knew that it would take 2-3 attempts maybe. But few things happened in the family at that time, and I just could not continue to depend upon parents for my finances. So then the options that time were to clear GATE and get into some of the IITs where the education is funded. So I ended up coming to IIT Kharagpur for my master's in technology, and that was kind of, I could self-finance. And in IIT Kharagpur, there was absolutely no environment for civils. People were either preparing for GRE or GMAT, or they were basically getting into IT and software engineering. And that is where actually I started taking up a lot of courses outside my department. I learned my first programming. I even stayed during the summer vacations to...
Sorry, I'll interrupt.
Yeah.
So programming, which language?
My first language was C.
C, okay.
Yeah. And first database was FoxPro. So I did that, and then it was like a campus selection through which I ended up joining IT. In fact, after 10 years of IT, I also tried to get away from IT after my MBA. I said, IT is only touching certain portions of the business, and I want to kind of handle it more. But, fate had other plans, and I ended up coming back to IT after some time. But yeah.
So how was otherwise the campus? You said, of course, it was more around technology and as typical of IIT. But what you can call as transformative experience that you had at IIT Kharagpur?
See, actually, when I start with University of Roorkee, which is now the IIT Roorkee. Actually, IIT Roorkee, and I recently went back after many years to visit my department, was actually a very, very good experience for me from an academic standpoint. There are very, very high standards and academic rigor and a lot of discipline that instill in you. So I think I learned whatever I had to learn on the subject of geology, applied geology, earth sciences, what you call, from IIT Roorkee only. When I came to IIT Kharagpur, the flexibility that I got there was basically that after the first trimester, you could go ahead and take different optional courses from different departments. So I went to mechanical engineering to take a course in computer graphics. I went to I think the Department of Mathematics, where I ended up taking the C programming language. So like that, and there was a regional remote sensing center there, which was working very closely with the Department of Earth Sciences. So I, in fact, ended up doing a project with IT and ARC Info GIS software that was available in that time in regional remote sensing center. And it was very advanced, actually. If you look at ISRO and the remote sensing centers and all that, they actually had the best of the equipment at that time, silicon graphics machines and all that. So I think the variety of experience I got there and the opportunity I got to experiment with different aspects was very, very useful. And I think that is where I decided that, okay, maybe, IT is the domain where I can do something rather than being in the field of geology. I did have an offer from some of these domain companies, but decided to take up the IT role, actually.
And you got into IT, and of course, over a period of time, I can see you moved from more hands-on software architecture into broader leadership and systems thinking. So, how did this transition happen?
I think the time when I just joined the IT industry in '98 was very interesting time. I think IT was on the boom. The companies like Infosys, Satyam, they had started making a name for themselves globally. They were still small, but they were really starting to, break into the global arena in terms of the services and even some of the products. And when I joined Satyam through Campus, which is now Tech Mahindra, right? My first project was all in mainframes. I did COBOL, assembly language programming, and Y2K was looming that time. Everybody was scared what will happen to the systems when the year turns to 2000 and the two digits become 00 and become same as 1900, right? So we did a lot of remediation work, and I think that was also a boom to a lot of our software companies that got a lot of business very quickly because there was not enough people to look at code and remediate and all. So 2-3 years I did that with Satyam. 2 years actually, 2 years 3 months, and post that I moved to Infosys. At Infosys, I again started as a technical analyst. Ended up doing a lot of projects at on-site where I would land either with a training just before my flight, or maybe reading a book in the flight. Because sometimes you have been trained, you've not got enough experience, but then you need to work on that project, and it is expected that you learn and you do it. And there has been at least 3-4 incidences where I have learned in the transit or after landing, or even the weekends after landing, and quickly learn and deliver. And it was fantastic experience, because if you look at during that time, right, I mean, India did not have much things to be proud of. We were still a country of, snake charmers and Taj Mahal, and that's all people will talk about. They won't really talk about anything interesting coming out of the country. But when IT happened and we all, were the global workforce, I still remember landing up in Japan one cold December morning, and I'm getting into a taxi, and the guy says, he can't speak much of English, but he says, India? Then I said, yes. Then he says, computer? I said, yes. And he says, oh, big brain. Like, so it really felt good that, there is appreciation for our talent. And wherever I went, whether it was Germany, Singapore, US, or, Spain, so many countries where we did projects, right, with our knowledge of the system, the hard work that we put in, and the dedication we showed. And there's a lot of appreciation for the work that we were doing and the value that we were delivering to them, and that felt good, right? And that's where I kind of first worked a lot on various technology aspects, ERP implementations, and all that. And the growth path that typically you have in IT is that once you are a programmer, and then you are a senior programmer, tech lead, maybe you can go as an architect, or you can become a program manager. So I ended up becoming a project manager, program manager, ended up managing large deliveries. And after 10 years in IT, I really wanted to take a step back and see, okay, where am I going and what I need to do really to get into the next orbit. And I decided to actually take a break completely and do a full-time MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. And that was also the time when I decided that, okay, enough of...
which year was it?
That was 2007.
Okay.
And I decided to come back from US, though I had a very, very good position there. People really wanted me to stay, and I think it would have been a different life if I had stayed there with green card and all that. But I decided, no, I want to come back to India, and to restart in India, I would take this break, do my MBA, and then get back into my rest of my career. And I think that was again a fantastic experience that I had working with...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is very interesting. So What was the rationale behind coming back to India? Because as you said, that was the time when actually most of the people were looking to just get into US and settle.
I think couple of things. One, definitely parents, because I did not want to be in a place like US where it takes a long time to come back for any help or emergency. And both of my sisters were actually settling abroad, one in UK, one in US. So I at least had the option of coming back. They did not. So I decided that, okay, I don't want to be working full time outside India. And I think that has definitely helped my parents to still remain healthy and happy, though I'm not physically all the time with them, but they know that I'm just 2 hours away. The second thing, if you ask me, is little personal, emotional thing. I mean, even though I used to work in all these countries, they never really felt like home. Right? End of the day, you miss that, right? And you won't feel that you really, really belong there. Even though they treat you well and all that, you still are an outsider, end of the day, right? So, and I thought if I don't come back now, maybe later it will become even more difficult, right? So better to, finish it off here and come back. And I think that time there was a lot of difference in the opportunities and the facilities, infrastructure-wise and all that between India and those countries. I think today the choice is pretty easy because I think we have reached quite good standards in terms of our infrastructure. Whatever items you wanted to buy, let's say in US, is also available here, right? Yes. So that time, that was one of the attractions, right? If you go there, you can go shopping in, Best Buy, Walmart, and see all those good stuff. But everything is available here also. In fact, they are very keen to sell in India.
Yes.
Right? So I think now the decision is easy, but that time it was tough. But I think the transition through IIM Ahmedabad definitely helped because, then I came back, spent 1 year, learned a lot of things, met a lot of friends, networking was good. So that really helped me to make the transition.
Great. Now let's talk a bit of the code. So based on your experience, and how do you approach or how do you look at now designing systems for reliability, scalability? Because there is always, you have to strike a balance there. And especially under all of this uncertainty, changing requirements, or as I call it, chaos. So how do you really make sure that the code which is good there is able to handle the chaos that's out there?
I think there is no easy answer. In fact, I consider software engineering to be a very immature science yet. If you compare with, let's say, civil engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, they have been there for hundreds of years. There are, basic principles that you do not not follow, right? So you have to follow and all that. But in software engineering, right, while you are writing code, you could write in any way. That they typically call spaghetti code and all that. You can do whatever, right? Which is really not good engineering, right? So now when you build something to be resilient and to be scalable, you apply good engineering principles, right? So I think you have to first decide what are the core principles that you are going to apply when you are building something like this. So, for example, anything that has to scale, right, has to be modular. Right? You have to have options to add in either infrastructure or computing infrastructure or software database components and all that. It has to be modular. It cannot be monolithic, right? You have to anticipate failures and anticipate how the system will behave in case of failure, right? And failure could be of anything, right? Server failure, network failure, human failure. I still remember a very interesting experiment I did when I was way back in 2003 when I was in one of the projects at US. We were implementing Oracle ERP for a client, and we had a lot of interfaces. The design was such that the core ERP was being replaced, whereas rest of the interfaces, the websites and ordering portals, EDIs, they will continue to operate the same way. And we kind of thought, okay, what will happen, right, if something breaks, right? How the interfaces will behave. And I designed something called breakdown testing, which even that time was very well appreciated by both client and our side. We said, let's do one thing, let's simulate various failures, and one day while running the whole thing under test, we will start breaking things up. So we actually spoke to the admin guy and we said, you will bring down the cluster during the transition of interface and all that. So, and in some cases we literally pulled out cables from server.
Wow.
and literally we did all kind of nonsense to see what happens. And we actually found a lot of gaps in the way we had built things. For example, there is data coming in the interface. Now it has started populating. Now midway it is gone, right? So what happens? How does it handle? Now we realize that, okay, whenever the data has to come in, it has to first check whether there is these fields already existing by any chance. Then I need to only populate the rest of the fields. Otherwise it will be creating a duplicate record.
Yes.
Or it will not even insert because that's a primary key. So a lot of such issues we found. So that brings me to the point that you need to anticipate failures, because today networks can fail, power can fail. Of course, in data centers and all, there is a lot of redundancy, but you never know. We have seen scenarios where motherboard has failed suddenly in a server. Now what happens, right? You are in the middle of a transaction. Then bringing things like serverless architecture, microservices deployed, right? That really helps you to scale horizontally whenever you want, right? Of course, if you are designing for scale, then probably cloud is the platform that you look at, so that you can scale at will. So I think you have to apply some of these principles to really design and constantly test out. And another important thing, you must monitor, observe. The platforms for observability are very key, because unless you get early warning signals, right, you can't take action, and sometimes it might be too late. So whatever setup you have done, how are you monitoring the metrics and taking action, again, is very key to building resilient systems.
So great point, and that's my actually next question. So you mentioned observability, monitoring, alerting. Now in this, of course, it's one thing to have them in place, and second is how early you should think of observability, and how does it really evolve as the scale grows? Like observability, monitoring, alerting. How do you see it?
I think you must start as early as possible. There is no point in delaying that, because it will cost you more, and you will end up doing things through manual methods or multiple different platforms before you have a comprehensive observability platform. Right now there are many systems available. Earlier probably it was not so, 10 years, 15 years back. But today you actually have systems that can monitor everything, starting from your servers, computing hardware, software, applications, network, wireless network, everything can be monitored. Of course, you can go overboard also and invest a lot into that. If your systems are not that critical, your application not that critical, maybe you don't want 24/7 monitoring. But however, if it is a critical system and if it is your primary, let's say enterprise system and all that, then you must have the platforms and you must have mechanism for alerts. And one very important thing during alerts is that you really have to test for false positives, right?
Yeah.
And false negatives, because many times these systems become useless because there are too many alerts coming in, and people are not taking any action because they keeps coming. But then what is the point, right? So, in my experience also, I had dealt with situations like that where I'm asking, is this alert really relevant? If it is not, take it out. If the threshold needs to be improved, improve the threshold. But at least if an alert is coming and it's a critical alert, I am expecting a ticket and an action to be taken. If that's not happening, it's just just another noisy system that is just creating noise.
That's what I see time and again, that everybody starts thinking from that, I need all possible signals, coming in, because anything can go. But then you don't realize that a point comes in when you have so many signals coming in that it's all noise.
Yeah, true. And that is what you have to guard against. Otherwise, it's like you are spending money, license cost, everything for getting that noise, not actioning anything. And finally, when something breaks, you go back and say, did I get an alert? Oh, it was buried under so many alerts, nobody took an action. There's no point.
So good that you mentioned guardrails. What kind of guardrails do you think that, should, and especially in terms of now that everything we are viewing it from an autonomy perspective, so how do you see, what should people think in terms of, of course, they have to think of from an autonomy perspective, but what guardrails should be there in these systems?
I think with AI, especially with AI coming into picture and driving a lot of autonomous decisions, and hopefully agentic AI will see a lot of that in action. There is still, I think, scale to be attained there, but guardrails there are absolutely critical. One, from a clearly from a cost standpoint also, from a safety and from a basic ethical background also it is required, because sometimes you can get very, very abusive also with the way you interact, and you get answers that way, and that's not really what you want to foster, right? Especially what I have seen is that there is a chatbot that you have built, right? And you have, let's say, connected with one of your OpenAI or any of your LLMs, and you are actually expecting somebody to maybe ask a question about your company policy, right? He has gone ahead and asked a question about how, let's say, XYZ in US is behaving and how that will impact our economy. Now, that query is useless from your perspective, because you are wasting computing tax and things like that, and user is asking irrelevant questions. So how do you put guardrails to ensure that whatever system is supposed to do, you only do that?
Yeah.
There are frameworks available. It's not easy. People have just, I think, started putting those guardrails, and again, it has to fine-tuned over a period of time. There is a lot of systems that are now coming up, right? Once you have the data, you can basically query the data, right? But what kind of queries you want to really allow, and at what level, what kind of queries you can allow, that needs to be thought through. Otherwise, it might so happen that somebody, way below the hierarchy, who should not be seeing certain data, you have actually stopped him from seeing the data per se by his access and all, but the LLM is going and eating the data that he needs, right? And there are many ways to trick LLMs. I'm sure you know it better, right? So building guardrails, especially for working with any sensitive data and all that, is absolutely critical.
We were more on the traditional IT, working with the IT companies, and then you came to the domain side of it, now especially with pharma. So now, what's what I can call as the mission or a vision that you hold for what you're doing now and what you do, and what changes do you see? Because you have of course come from the IT industry, and now you are responsible for bringing all of that into the domain.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you see, in terms of vision, and how do you hope to drive what you want to?
See, as they say, life happens to you while you are busy planning it other way, right? I told you I did not study biology, but you see, I ended up in pharma, right? That's what happens. What you avoid, comes for you. But the fact is, the healthcare industry and pharma industry and healthcare overall, right, is a tremendous opportunity for us to serve the humanity. There are a lot of problems. There are a lot of challenges. Diseases are multiplying as humans move all over the globe, and they are displacing more of the forests and are going deeper and all that. You don't know what all viruses and things that are being released into this thing. We saw the pandemic, and nobody was prepared, right? Definitely technology played a role in bringing the vaccines also quickly into the market, right? Now, when I come to the domain, right, there are so many different opportunities I see in the whole value chain where technology can play a significant role, right? In drug discovery, already people are using it to predict modeling, predict models, predict how let's say, a molecule interacts with the protein, and what kind of, how we can optimize the interactions and all that, right? So that's already happening, and there are people are able to save significant amount of time. It used to take 15 to 20 years and billions of dollars to bring a product into the market, right? Medicine into the market. But significant improvement can be done in the pipeline creation by use of technology. Now, if you go further from clinical trials, lots of use of technology, right? Already clinical trials were using technology because they had to analyze the data, come up with statistical models, and decide whether this is efficacious or not. But now with AI, you can actually find the perfect patient fit for the clinical trials, get early warning signals, and decide if you want to really continue with the trial or you want to close that. There's a lot of work that can happen with the use of technology there. Now coming to R&D side, the manufacturing side, right? Personalized medicine has been made possible only with the help of technology, right? With the genomics, with the kind of data, that personal data that you have, health data that you have, that now you can get a personalized medicine. So there is a vast number of use cases that you can really look at doing. Now, as a technology person working in this domain now, it is also easy to get overwhelmed with all the different possibilities which are there. I think my job is to first figure out what are the most impactful things, right? Probably put it in a literally 2x2 matrix in terms of ease of implementation and the effectiveness and the impact that brings, and decide which are the technology use cases to go after, right? And build it, experiment quickly, and once you prove the value, then scale up, and then bring the solution to larger set of people who can use and benefit from the system, right? Now, whether it is HCP interactions that salespeople do, how that can be improved, how do we provide the right kind of information to HCPs quickly, right, at the salesperson's fingertips. How does the salesperson really do his job effectively with the usage of data, analytics on that, and insights from the data? How does the R&D team, right, reduce the chaos that exists there in terms of the data that is available, but probably they're not using. In India, a lot of data is available in paper format, then PDF format, and different ways, and sometimes it is very difficult to really bring it all together to decide whether I already have some amount of experimental data on this particular component or not, right? So if you can work on that, doing effective root cause analysis, and maybe predict a failure, right, based upon the SOPs and the process that we have set, process parameters in the SOPs, you can definitely even predict, right, based upon your past outcomes of various batches that you have produced, depending upon different parameters. You could actually come up and say that, okay, this is the golden set of parameters that will give me the best output, and I should maintain that, right? So all are different possibilities. Again, bringing all the different aspects of technology availability, and then the challenges and the use cases which are there, marry that and see what is the best way to take it forward. I think that's primarily my agenda to drive here.
We are seeing that, of course, there are two ways, or two paths around AI. One is like where we are looking at, of course, the horizontal AI and, with LLMs and large players, wherein same models which are being applied into different industries or essentially working in an industry agnostic way. And the second approach wherein the line of thought is no, to get real results you need vertical AI. So what's your take on this horizontal AI versus vertical AI, especially since you come from a domain?
No, I think very important question. I think a lot of people are definitely debating on that. What you refer as vertical um, LLM or AI models, also referred to as the domain specific
language models.
LLMs, DSLMs they call it. I think definitely in future we're going to see more of verticalization and domain specific models evolving, because every business has specific requirements and rules. Pharma data, the way you understand, right? The way a scientist or a doctor, right, interprets certain data, okay, is not the way a common man interprets, right? So a basic LLM, right, without the domain specific knowledge would only give you so much, right? But if you want to really bring value and intelligence specifically for your domain, you need to go for domain specific LLMs. And there are many cases I am seeing where, let's say, OpenAI, for example, is tying up with Novartis, and Novartis is tying up with OpenAI to really build the model that sits on top of their data and is able to give them relevant information. A basic LLM would not do that for Novartis. Similarly, I think NVIDIA has built very specific stacks for life science, and you guys are doing fantastic job in that area where you have built curated lot of knowledge, right, from the life science specific experiments, clinical trials, literature, and you have curated that, you have ensured that the accuracy is there, and that is being fed to the model to really give you the specific things. And I think I remember reading some Gartner prediction on this. I think by 2028 they expect 60 to 70% of LLMs to be domain specific and vertical LLMs, right? And horizontal ones will become like the Googles of the world, where you just query something, but anything specific to your industry, banking, financial, cybersecurity, or for that matter, healthcare, life science, you will go for the vertical DSLMs.
Great that you mention it. I can plug it in here that we are featured in the Gartner report of domain specific LLMs recently.
Fantastic.
Yes. And we really see that even NVIDIA itself, and I can say Jensen has been speaking about that to derive the real value, it is ultimately going to be very domain specific. I mean, it's like moving the needle till 95%. It will be easy to go for all general purpose models, but the value lies in beyond 99%.
Yeah.
And that is the distance which only domain specific language models will be able to cover.
In fact, I was speaking to one of the scientists from US who has actually developed a domain specific model, and they were ready to give that platform to other pharma companies. And he basically mentioned that if you ask a general purpose LLM to do a protein structure analysis, he may do an academic job, right? But that is not how that protein actually exists in real life. So that only a doctor or a scientist knows, right? So that is why there is a difference. Otherwise, what you may come up with from those general purpose LLMs is not really, the thing that works. So, absolutely.
Correct. In fact, that's where the very early hype of around 18, 19, when the sudden hype was there, a lot of the models, they said, yeah, we can synthesize everything. AI synthesized molecules. All drugs are going to be, they're designed by using AI. But that's what happened. That yes, it gave you all sorts of options. But then when you look at what's the even feasibility of it working in the real world, or even the feasibility of synthesizing it.
Yes.
And that's where failures were there. And there's theoretically you can have all the options, but if it's not practically possible, then it's of no use.
Yeah.
That happened. Great. And now, if we get from a CIO perspective, of course, compute is super important, but everybody is now talking about sustainability, and hence the term has come green compute. And especially now that worldwide we see the way where billions and probably now trillions are moving just towards compute. How do you see, from a CIO perspective of looking at energy efficiency, sustainability, or even incorporating renewables to the strategy and when looking at infrastructure design?
I think absolutely right, and we know with AI what kind of computes are being used and what kind of systems are being put in place. I was seeing one data center by one of the companies where for the AI rack, they had this liquid cooling and all that, which is now the standard, right, for liquid cooling or immersion cooling, and that's what is going to work. There's just way too much of heat that is generated. But I think as an enterprise, right, one has to look at holistically, right? What is the overall sustainability goal for the company, and how do you look at all aspects, not only just the IT and the computing aspect, right? For a manufacturing company, for example, probably there's a lot of energy that is used during manufacturing process in terms of steam power or heat or electricity and things like that. So how do you overall create a approach to reduce the overall energy consumption, switch possibly to renewables, which is probably one of the easiest approaches one can take, at least move 50-60% of our energy consumption to renewables. Putting up solar plants and all that is very easy nowadays. Now coming to, and then of course always think about what they call as the circular economy, right? So that you reduce waste, improve the utilization of assets and whatever materials that you are utilizing. That also contributes to hugely to sustainability. Now, coming to computing, as a CIO, one's goal is always to align with more energy efficiency going forward. So whenever we are talking to partners and vendors for different products, right, we definitely make it a point to ask about their energy ratings and how do they rank and all that. And there has been now a lot of companies are actually talking about their energy efficient processors and all that. AMD came up with something, I think they call it some EPYC processors and all that, and they are promising the least usage of this thing. I think Intel also has some Eco series, and NVIDIA has come up with this thing because this will become a differentiator, right? If anybody is coming up with a 30% more energy efficient chipset, definitely people will go for it, right? Because they save a lot end of the day. So looking at those ratings, making sure your partners have sustainability goals themselves, what kind of green rating they carry, and in our whole selection process and in our questionnaire also we have, let's say, put parameters like that. And I think every CIO is doing that, right? In any forum I go to, sustainability and green energy and the demands on computing and energy by AI is a hot topic. And as the Earth is seeing a lot of climate change and increase of temperature and all that, this is an important aspect to address as well.
Do you think is the Indian pharma industry investing enough in AI, or they are still looking to invest, or are they already over-invested? Where do you see it is?
I think the scales are very different. I worked with a lot of these global pharmas. I've been to their offices, interacted with a lot of their people because we used to support their IT systems and processes. I think the scale of investment is definitely very, very different. And that's why you see that Indian pharma is primarily focused on generics because there is just not enough funds to maybe drive $1 billion drug discovery process. And however, I think over a period of time, we are seeing our companies innovating, coming up with new products. And there are companies I know who are actively working on innovative molecules. Maybe they're not yet in the market, but very soon I do expect certain global products to come out of Indian market. With respect to AI, I think AI has been a great leveler that way because the tool is available. It's easy to deploy with cloud architecture, with LLMs availability and all that. I think the tools are available now. Maybe some companies have already made plans to deploy at scale and take the benefits at different processes, and some companies are probably doing more focused use cases where they want to first check the ROI before taking it on scale. And global players are definitely bringing in AI into everything they do because the costs are very high, and wherever they can reduce cost by use of AI, definitely they are doing it. I've seen a lot of those use cases in R&D, in manufacturing, clinical trials, even in creating marketing materials and all that. And data is the fodder for AI, right? So they have the data now. A lot of Indian companies probably have data in the silos. They need to still centralize some of that, make sure that it is available, it is correct, accurate. Otherwise, again, hallucinations may happen with AIs. So they are still in the, I would say, early stages. But the gap is not too much, I would say, right? Probably in 2-3 years' time, you will see very sophisticated use cases of AI being used in Indian pharma, which are equivalent to that of the global companies.
So out of all the use cases that you listed in, where all you see it's being used already and where the industry is seeing value, in your view, do you already see, like, is there going to be a killer app, which is going to drive the adoption, or is there any specific use case which you see that yes, this is something which is which almost everybody is going to use AI for?
I think see, we have a challenge today because of the disparate systems that are being used. Now, pharma is highly regulated. Every process, GXP process is validated. There is a system, process, SOP for everything that they do.
Yeah.
However, today if you go to any pharma company, you would see multiple systems being used for specific activities. There will be a DMS, there will for DMS for SOPs and training and things like that. There is a TMS, there is a QMS, right, for managing deviations and all that. There would be a ERP system, of course. There would be a LIMS system. There are so many different systems. Challenge is they are not talking to each other that much. Right? The interfaces, the APIs are not available. Of course, a lot of these OEMs are now thinking, and they have already started building those, and they are making some of these available on the cloud if you move to the cloud. On on-prem systems, there is still a bit of challenge, right? How do you kind of enable those public APIs and LLMs and all that to be made available? I think the time is right for many players to maybe bring out systems which are already AI ready. So what today we are doing is we have systems which are not really AI ready. We are trying to bring them into some framework and use AI, right? Yeah. So it has its limited ability, and it takes a lot of effort to really massage through the data and make them talk to each other. It is easy to say that, okay, a lot of people will say that, oh, I'll connect this, but connecting things is not easy, right? If there is one big problem in software engineering that has not been solved, it is actually the integration.
Yes.
Right? It is not easy. So I would say the killer are those companies who understand the domain and they know that these are the process and systems that companies use, and if they can come up with a platform that already is AI ready and native capabilities are there, and they can orchestrate all these processes, I think they will have huge business. Because the way we are still trying to make sense of the data by connecting, collating, creating lake houses and all that, I think in the long run is not very sustainable. So people are building probably, and I think there are some companies who are working in this area. But anybody who builds a platform that is AI ready and can ingest any kind of data, right, and can give a opportunity for quick analysis, quick modeling and all that, will do very well in this domain.
And now, as you look at the adoption of AI, and of course, I think now there is no question of whether anybody will use AI or not. It's just a matter of when. Uh, and in this, what challenges do you face in this getting an org to adopt AI at different levels, and making sure that yes, it really reaches every nook and corner of the organization and everybody is on board AI? What challenges do you face, and how do you think that you are overcoming them?
I think AI is another digital transformation if you look at, right? And digital transformations have always faced a lot of challenges, whether it was those ERP implementations, CRM implementations, or the data lakes and big data implementations that happened with some of the companies. Later, now we are in the AI era. I think overall it is a lot of change. I think the pace of change is mind-boggling, right? If you look at the industrial evolutions, they took hundreds of years. Between maybe the first and second, there's a gap of 100 years. Second and third also 100 years. But third and fourth, 30, 40 years. Fourth and fifth, 10 years.
Yeah.
And now every year, literally there is a revolution happening. Now humans are not really designed, right? You might feel that, okay, we are all in technology and we should be adaptable to change and all that, but we don't like to change so much, right? Everybody says we love change, but if I tell you now, change the chair this way and sit the other way, you will resist it. So why I am happy this way, right? So that is the challenge with any digital transformation, and anything of scale, anything which is transformative is also disruptive. Many times people have to do extra work while the project is getting implemented. They have their daily jobs, they are doing it in a particular way. Now you are telling them to get involved in requirement gathering and UAT, test cases and all that. So they say, oh, already there's too much of work. And most companies do not have, I would say, that much of fat or availability of additional resources to really deploy for large projects. Stakeholder expectations, managing stakeholder expectation is a big thing, right? And unless there is I would say, senior executive sign off and support to digital initiatives, it will fail. And same thing with AI also, I would say. It has to be also top down, but at the same time, as a leader, you cannot sit at the perch and expect things to happen, right? People will resist. You have to be in the trenches. You have to really bring the value to them, and you have to answer the question, what's in it for me? Why should I do it, right? And what is because there is a lot of scare also with AI, right? I mean, whether my value is going to go down, what is going to happen to my job, right? Is an agent going to take over? Thankfully, I don't think that is going to happen, and it has never happened in history that technology has completely replaced, and there was a prediction long time back the robots will come and do everything, and that's not happened, right? We still need the human in the loop, and with AI also we will continue to have human in the loop. But I think what is going to be critical for people to understand is that you will not be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by a person who is using AI, right? So you be better, you be that person, right? So how do you kind of skill up? A lot of people in this kind of domains, pharmaceutical, manufacturing and all that, are there in the company for many years. Now they haven't really learned new technology. Suddenly you tell them, oh, this is how you have to learn. So you have to help them learn. There is a lot of training, a lot of communication for them to really understand the value. And we are seeing that it's not easy. You might send out communication, people may not have time to read it, right? You might do trainings, people are busy, they don't attend the trainings, or they forget what they learned, right? So it has to be a constant, I would say, effort to skill up people, make them realize the value of it, and you have to definitely work with the people in the trenches for it to really make it happen, right? You can't just put a external set of project managers or consultants onto the job and expect that they will do miracles. It's not going to happen unless the ownership is really coming from within, right? If it continues to be an IT project, it will fail.
Yeah.
It has to be a business project. It has to be a project that takes care of a challenge of the business, and so you have to find change agents and stakeholders who are ready to own that solution from business. Otherwise, they'll say, "Oh, this is something that IT is doing. Why should I, pay attention to that?" So yeah, I think those are aspects, like human aspects. Basically, the failure or success happens with the humans in the loop and how they are supporting the initiatives and how they are buying into the initiatives. Otherwise, over a period of time, particular solution will just continue to there but not fully utilized.
Great that you mentioned. Yes, in the end, it's the human which is important, and in the end, ultimately, everything is about the human element. So, moving, you have worked at some of the India's biggest IT firms, Infosys, TCS, Cognizant, that has its own scale, legacy, and from there you move to pharma. How do you see the work culture? How was it different across these, and then finally when you compare it with pharma, how is it different?
It's quite different, right? I mean, the scale is different. The work itself is quite different. See, all these large companies, they have great culture, good set of values on which they have built their business, and all of them are successful. So I think nothing I can point out, right, specifics that good or bad. If you compare that with smaller companies, obviously there is a difference of scale, right? There is a difference of agility, you can say. You go to larger companies if you need scale, right? If you need a lot of deep expertise, right, in certain areas, right? They have the COEs, they have the talent spread and the geographic spread, right? If you are a global business needing one partner, you will obviously go with a large organization, right? But if you are looking for more flexible, agile kind of partnerships, you work with smaller companies, and these giants, they mostly work with, I would say, multinational clients, right? So the culture is very different. It's very global in the way you interact, very professional. But when you come to smaller companies, and I have worked with much smaller companies, very, very small ones. In fact, post my MBA, I did a lot of experimentation, worked with renewable energy companies and waste to energy companies. In fact, I was in Pune way back in 2009, trying to set up a waste to energy plant, actually.
Wow.
The Hadapsar depot,
Okay.
the waste depot, municipality waste depot, is where my office was.
Wow.
So that is there, but that is different, right? Completely different scale. Roles are not very specific, right? If somebody is, let's say in a large company, if somebody is doing sales, he's doing sales. He's not doing delivery, right? But in a smaller company, the roles will overlap. You will have one person who is doing multiple things,
Yes.
right? And same is the case in even today, if I look at, right? So there is a huge difference, but the interesting thing is the smaller companies want to get bigger, and they have certain benefits like the scale and all that, but then they lose a little bit on the speed and the flexibility, agility. The bigger companies, they want to inculcate a entrepreneurial mindset. They want people to be agile, and that's why they have started funding and all that for this kind of initiatives also, where you set up your small company, maybe you do that, you grow that. So I think it's a journey, right? And every company wants to grow and become a bigger company. But I think what is important is how do you plan to grow? How do you build the systems that will allow you to grow? Will you start crumbling when you reach a particular scale, right? So what are the infrastructures, the organizational structures, the support systems, the policies and procedures, that you put in place which stands the test of time and can help you scale, right, without really having to get into a lot of issues at that time. I think that is very important. And some of these companies have done really well. They've built up, implemented systems which probably took care of a much larger population than what they had at that time, but that helped them set up for growth, right? And that's what I think we can learn from them and make sure that we have those systems and policies that help us to grow.
Outside of the tech role, I came to know you also have a creative side, and as you mentioned, you're off to bird photography. How did it start? How did that passion ignite, and what it means for you today to continue with that?
See, I do a couple of things apart from work to satisfy a little bit of interest, and also to, I would say, bring some balance to the life. If we are constantly thinking about work, technology, programming, and issues at work, maybe, right, it can be a very dull life. Right? And you will actually stop being creative at work also, right? So I deliberately have tried to bring in certain interest and hobbies that help me to de-stress, to reconnect with nature, and help me to do better work finally, end of the day. So bird photography or photography in general, that's how it started. But I do a little bit of flute playing also. I play flute. I'm still a learner, but I've been learning for now 5-6 years. But I can play a thing or two. Maybe next time I will play at your annual function.
Sure.
But again, music, Hindustani classical music is a brilliant science in itself. The things it can do to your brain waves, to your mood, if you play certain ragas, okay, is just amazing. And I'm really amazed by the abilities that our people had way back then, right? There were not many books and all that written on music, because many of the things were by Shruti. They have to just listen and learn, but somehow, this culture and this heritage has survived is awesome. And I would invite anyone having some interest in music to really explore this and see how people built ragas for a specific time of the day, specific seasons, and all that. Now coming to photography, bird photography in particular. So I got interested in this in one of the trips that I took when I was at TCS. We had gone to Bhimasankar actually.
Oh.
And there were a couple of guides with us. I mean, they were actually employees, but they themselves were very expert level birders themselves. So somebody started showing those birds and naming them and all. I was very fascinated. I said, I never looked at it in that way really. I took a few pictures that time and all, but later when I got a little better equipment, and I'm still on quest for even better equipment because photographing birds is very tricky. They are small, they are far off, they are all the time moving. So getting a good picture is a bit challenging. But I think I really enjoy early morning either walks or a safari where we are looking at, spotting birds, trying to photograph them. Sometimes maybe you have to wait for a particular time or a pose, and so you really have to be patient. You can't really rush things. The bird is not going to act as per your wish, right? And so it just grows as a passion. And once you start, looking at birds and you learn about their habitat, their behavior, and then you really want to see specific aspects, maybe around nesting or when they are growing their chicks or feeding. So some of my very interesting pictures are around, feeding the chicks and all that, which are really awesome to see and enjoy. And I think just being in the nature and photographing birds and animals is a big stress buster in itself. And I hope to at some point, live a small forest, right, which is dedicated and remains untouched, and where the birds and animals can be there and people can come and enjoy. Because I think our new generation, I don't know what all they will get to see or not see. Maybe leave some pictures and videos. I try to record their specific sounds and their movements also, and I kind of keep it. Hopefully I will put it into some digital library and people can enjoy that later. That's fine.
That's I mean, I'm also a big nature person, and that's what I see that kind of times when you are in a forest, early morning there, that music, those sounds, is like the effect that it has can't be explained. You just feel it.
You have to experience it, and absolutely.
So so looking back, a journey, if you wish, if there was a different path that you would have taken, or if there is any one thing or one decision that you would want to change.
I don't think I have any regrets like that, and I am a strong believer that there are bigger forces at play that sometimes determine why something happens to you. I can tell you that a lot of big things or changes in my life I had not really planned for. It just happened. So I go with the flow. Now, my career has taken a lot of turns, starting with IT, then moving in non-IT, then moving into some business process related work, then coming back to IT and different roles in IT. I think every experience was in some way a learning experience. Maybe at that point of time, I did not enjoy it so much. There were a lot of challenges, especially when I had taken up some of those roles during that financial crisis and all. There was a lot of challenge with respect to the financial situations of the company, myself personally and all that. But I think it just, at the end of the day, if you survived a challenge, it just made you stronger.
Yeah.
Right? Still there is life ahead. You don't know what are the possibilities. I still feel that maybe running an organization where you build something creative, where you give employment to people and solve some challenges, could be a very fulfilling thing. At some point of time, I had started a company called Tina Planet. Stands for There Is No Alternate Planet.
Yeah.
Where I wanted to work in alternate energy and environmentally friendly construction materials, because things like cement and all, they really use a lot of raw materials and energy and all that. Could not continue that beyond certain times and all that. Could be, some building something like that and leaving it for future would be helpful. And as I said, one of my dreams is to really make a forest and leave it as it is with a will that nobody can touch it, right? So something like that. Yeah, those things probably will happen, but I don't think there is any point in regretting what happened in the past. You just need to move on.
And from industry and tech perspective, if we look at the next 5 years, in terms of infrastructure, platform, architectures, AI, one theme that's being a recurring thing. There's always centralization, then decentralization, then centralization. And now what do you see? And over the next 5 years, do you see it moving more towards decentralization, that now we are, at least in some bit, we are looking people trying to come back from cloud, having on-prem compute, especially with GPUs and so on? Or do you think that eventually it will be even more centralized? What do you see?
So tech predictions are always fraught with risk. A lot of big people have predicted a lot of things and they have not come true. So I will not really predict anything on that, but I think the way I have seen the tech industry evolve and the way it is evolving today, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. It's never going to be fully centralized, decentralized. Why I say that? Because today you see a lot of edge computing with 5G, 6G coming into picture. You want computing closer to the place where the work is happening. So you have IoTs and other things at the factory, and you want certain distance there. But you also want centralized orchestration. You don't want your plants and all that to operate like silos with their distributed environment and all that. You want to finally look at the data centrally. You want to control certain things centrally, and you want to orchestrate centrally. So I think, and with the kind of cloud platforms and with the kind of solutions that are there, it is very much possible to have both, right? For example, data, right? There was a time when we all thought of, okay, data should remain with the function that are using the data or creating the data. Then later we came to the concept of centralized lake houses and data warehouses where we bring different data elements and do use cases and all. And now today we are saying that, okay, we can actually have a dataverse kind of a scenario, or a scenario where the data exists, but we are able to centrally operate with the data and make sense of the data. And I think that is how it is going to be, somewhere in the messy middle, I would say, between centralized and decentralization, where a lot of decentralization will happen at the factories, at the operation, this thing, but at the same time, centralized control orchestration will definitely happen, and that's where we will end up.
So yes, we are at the end. Thank you so much, Ram, for taking the time out on a Saturday, coming all the way from Mumbai, being with us. And there have been really insightful conversation. I got to learn a lot from you, not just your journey, but your view on the world. And really, from my side, I'm excited to see what you build, and of course, all the best for the forest. I'm looking forward to it, and all the best for your future, and all the best for your upcoming trip as well.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. I really admire you, your work, and what you are building, and what you have achieved so far. So it has been a privilege and an honor for me to talk to you and have this chat. And I really lost track of time, and with all the different good stuff that you are talking about. And I would definitely welcome you on any of the next trips where we can go, maybe do some bird photography together. Yeah, looking forward to that.
I'll love to join. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gaurav.
होप ये पॉडकास्ट आपको पसंद आया होगा. अगर हाँ तो लाइक करें, शेयर करें अपने मित्रों के साथ, और प्लीज़ डोंट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब आवर चैनल. एंड यस, डोंट फॉरगेट टू प्रेस द बेल आइकन, ताकि आपको नोटिफिकेशंस मिलते रहें हमारे हर नए एपिसोड्स के बारे में. एंड मिलते हैं एक नए एपिसोड में हमारे नए गेस्ट के साथ. टिल देन, थैंक यू.